This story recounts my true experience working as an assistant funeral director in my early 20s. A friend informed me of an opportunity at a particular funeral home, situated far from the city on the outskirts of a rural area. I hesitated for a moment. Not because of the distance, but the thought of working near deceased made me feel eerie. However, finding no money in my pocket, I had no choice. Despite my initial assumption that the position might not offer a substantial salary due to its remote location, I was pleasantly surprised by the generous pay. I immediately accepted the offer and began my first day. On my first day, I was introduced to a senior director who is said to have worked there the longest. Perhaps because I'm a newcomer, I thought he was simply trying to boast about his seniority and assert his authority. With an indifferent tone, he asked,
"Did you get here through personal connections and recommendations? You really need to develop a strong mindset to withstand the intensity here. It's not a place for the faint-hearted."
Well, he was right. Sometimes when dealing with accident-related deaths, the sight of the bodies is often so gruesome that it's very difficult to look at them directly. Weak individuals may collapse on the spot or experience traumatic effects later on. Luckily, I was fine. Shortly after completing the first shift, I stumbled forward as I was coming out of the hall for no apparent reason. Initially, I thought I was exhausted, being new to the job. However, it seems like strange things start happening one after another. All of our assistant directors in the facility take turns on night shift duties, and adapting to the changing day-night schedule requires a significant adjustment. That day marked my first night shift, and fatigue weighed heavily as I worked through the night. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed from the floor above, like the hurried footsteps of someone running. Since there were no scheduled activities, there shouldn't have been anyone around, making it seem peculiar. Unable to ignore the mysterious noise, I went upstairs to the second floor to investigate. However, it was silent. Did I mishear? Or could it be an intruder? As I cautiously opened the door to one of the funeral halls, a young girl swiftly rushed out, disappearing into another adjacent vacant hall. A young girl in the funeral home in the middle of the night. Wasn't that strange? I approached the empty hall where the girl had just entered. Upon entering, she was standing there in the middle of the room. In an instant, I was so startled that I stumbled forward. But when I raised my head to look again, there was no one there. At that moment, my heart pounded. What had I seen? A chill lingered on my entire body long after my shift had ended. The next day, I helped one of the kitchen ladies carry stuff into the kitchen. The lady glanced at me.
"Do you have any worries these days? Why does your face look gloomy?"
I hesitated for a moment, and then shared what I had experienced the previous night.
"Oh my, you've been here not even a week and you already have seen it? You must have been really scared."
It seemed like she knew something. "You know about it too?" I asked.
"I wasn't here long enough to know everything, but there are quite a few strange things happening around here. If you plan on working here for a long time, remember these 3 things I'm about to tell you. First, if you see something, don't pay any attention. Just ignore it no matter what. Pretend you didn't see anything and move on. Second, even if you hear something when no one is around, don't be overly sensitive and startled. Just ignore it. Lastly but not least, when dusk falls, you must come down from the 3rd floor no matter what. Don't stay there."
With those words, the elderly lady left in a hurry. Why did she offer such strange advice? The reason became clear not long after. It was a day when the monsoon had just begun, pouring down heavily. Despite the early hour, the outside was pitch dark. I was on duty by myself alone, organizing the materials needed for embalming. However, it seemed like I was running a bit short on supplies. So I went up to the storage room on the 3rd floor and began collecting what I needed. However, because of the weather, the atmosphere felt eerie. I felt a chill in the air. Suddenly, I felt a presence behind me. And when I turned around, the figure vanished instantly. Puzzled, I opened the door and looked, but there was no one there. I heard a faint voice from behind.
I'm right here.
I shivered, looked around instantly, but there was nothing there. At that moment, I heard it again.
I'm right here.
In the distance, something blurry was visible. Upon closer look, there was a man with an extremely pale, almost bluish face.
I'm right here.
Startled, I took a step back and tripped over the boxes stacked behind me, stumbling awkwardly. Strangely, I found myself falling forward. The more I tried to regain my balance, the more I seemed to topple. When I looked again, the figure had vanished, leaving nothing behind. In that moment, I remembered the advice given by the lady.
When dusk falls, you must come down from the third floor no matter what. Don't stay there.
There was undoubtedly something on the third floor. The next day, after the last funeral service concluded, it was time for all the funeral halls to be emptied and cleaned. I lent a hand to the cleaning lady, and we began thorough cleaning from the first floor to the third floor. By the time we finished cleaning the last vacant hall on the third floor, it was already past 6 o'clock. While washing the mop in the washroom, I heard a strange noise. When I looked up, the lights flickered in one of the halls. Oh, it seems like it's time to change the light bulbs, I thought, and continued washing the mop. Suddenly, a shiver ran down my spine. I distinctly remembered turning off the lights, yet they were on. Feeling a sense of urgency, I swiftly finished washing the mop and stepped out of the washroom. In that moment, a disfigured woman came rushing towards me. Startled, I sprinted down the stairs in a panicked frenzy, only to lose consciousness in the blink of an eye. Upon opening my eyes, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. According to my mother, I had lost consciousness after tumbling down the stairs. But fortunately, the cleaning lady found me at the bottom of the stairs and promptly rushed me to the hospital. Though I had to wear a cast, I was grateful that the injury wasn't severe. Eager to be discharged and wanting to go home, I hurriedly tried to change my hospital gown and put on my regular clothes. However, as I removed my hospital gown, my mom, with a startled expression, pointed to the mirror behind me. When I slowly turned around and saw my back in the mirror, I was in total shock. In the reflection of the mirror behind me, there were 2 distinct purplish bruises in the shape of handprints on my back. It looked as if someone had pushed me from behind with force. At that moment, memories of past incidents began to resurface one by one. The mysterious figures suddenly appear and then disappear. The strange moments when I kept stumbling forward. How did I end up falling forward when I tripped backward? All the incidents from the first day of my job to the day I fell down the stairs, everything seemed to be more than mere coincidence. Several days later, it was a call from the friend who initially recommended me for a job at that funeral home. Unexpectedly, she began to apologize. Upon learning about my injury, she investigated and discovered that the place had an infamous history. All of the recently hired staff were getting hurt and quitting one after another as soon as they were hired. Furthermore, my friend mentioned something about a woman on the local news who had fallen from the building and died a few years ago. Apparently, all the newcomers got injured right after they had seen her. The mysterious souls I witnessed, who were they? Are they still wandering around there even to this day?